Hi, everybody. Coming was forcibly removed from his barracks room and he was taken, and his life was taken from him right there on Fort Bliss. And his body was stolen and dismembered and taken, trafficked to Mexico. The crime is huge. And now we have, wow, our numbers are getting really big. Okay, so we're on. And I know it's very late. It's already past 1 a.m., but it can't be helped because of, the phone has been ringing off the hook. The phone has been ringing off the hook. You see what's happening on the border. You absolutely see that two shots were fired, aiming at border security guards that are doing their job, and they're being targeted and fired at um, by Mexican cartel, and this tells you a lot of proves that Richard, his warnings were right, his whistleblowing was right. There is a real danger to the United States. It absolutely needed to be reported. So here now we have an escalation at the border where there's fires of bullets fired. And how long will it be until someone gets injured, right? How long will it be until someone gets injured? And what is the response going to be? And, I want to point out that this comes right after another tunnel point 2.0. Tunnel 2.0 was discovered right there, going from Mexico into El Paso. That was discovered by the Mexican army. Okay. This is the second one that's been discovered by Mexico. What are the Americans doing? Are they discovering tunnels? This is the real mutiny that's going on there um, in El Paso with the officials, right? With the officials. They are so absolutely compromised with this Mormon faction cartel tied criminal trafficking network. And this is going to take, um, I don't know what it's going to take. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of work to expose them. Like Connell Witten, like James Bonneau Montoya, before that Bill Hicks, like Woody Hunt, like Paul Foster, like Alejandro de la Vega Foster, like Bob Moore and Angela Kachurga covering up, and look at El Paso Inc. Look at El Paso Inc. What did they do? They named Mario Ortiz Soroldi, attorney, the best attorney for El Paso. Are you kidding me? Look at what he was doing. Look at what he was doing. He was working with the traffickers in order to get personal favors, sexual favors with the victims, coerce them. You know what that is? That's a big R. Coerce, sexual. Uh, that's a big R. Okay? By coercion. By coercion. This is so working with them, calling them up, arranging a time to meet, a time to pick them up, to take them to a hotel, to have his way with them, which is a big R, then to take them back to the traffickers, the captors. These women were captive, and he took them back. He didn't take them to the police station. He didn't take them to the police station to protect them. He took them back to the traffickers, to the captors, so that he can make other arrangements again one day, maybe, right? Um, Putting their lives in danger. This is, well, what that is trafficking. He was himself participating in the trafficking. And what does this fake prosecutor, this fake prosecution do? Say, oh, he's just soliciting prostitution. That's a bunch of baloney. That's a big bunch of baloney. It's a fake prosecution. It is, I call it hypnosis of the public, because James Montoya, he's at big risk. He's at big risk and huge risk. He is at huge risk. His crimes are so bad, um, ap- because he is illegally installed uh, in the prosecutor's office. He's illegally installed by a very dirty judge, right? The Walmart judge, David Guadarrama, right? I mean, whose manager whose manager for the federal courthouse was the family of Patrick Crucius. Think about that. Think about not only that, that whole family um, has some conflicts of interest in the DA's office, in the FBI's office, at Walmart. Yeah, so James Montoya is at huge risk, and I think Mexico is stepping up first, right? They're ahead of us because they're arresting these cartel kingpins. They are extraditing them. They are also discovering the tunnels. And then they just had a standoff with the customs, the head of the customs. What's his name? I need to look at what his name is. But it took them 2 weeks to arrest this guy, right? Because he was in his office refusing to leave the office. Here he is, known corruption. The head of the border. If you're part of the um, customs, you're head of the border. He's head of the border, right? And Mexico had a 2-week standoff with him before they got him out of the room, out of his office, to arrest him, to charge him. This is, really reminded us of James Bonneau Montoya. Is he going to have a standoff? Is that what it's going to take? Because he is illegally installed in that position and he's doing fake prosecutions. He's so corrupt with Omar Carmona. He has collusion, corrupt history with Omar Carmona, the once upon a time partner to Mario Ortiz Ceroldi. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. So what's you mean Omar Carmona didn't know what kind of cheat, what kind of dirty attorney, what kind of participating with the Mormon faction, cartel tied criminal trafficking network. They're sexually exploiting these women and taking them back then to their captors after picking them up, and he's an officer of the court of the law. I mean, and Montoya is trying to do a fake prosecution to give him a slap on the hand. I think we're kind of sick and tired of that. I think we're kind of sick and tired of that. The disenfranchisement, the absolute cartel infiltration of huge positions like a chief medical examiner for $500,000 a year of taxpayers' money, and taxpayers, they don't really want to pay $500,000. I don't want to a illegal and a cartel connected and unqualified medical examiner that's going to botch all the cases, including the Walmart case, including Richard's case. I think, the taxpayers really want their money back. They need their money back with these prices. You know, it's really sickening how, uh, there is, this double standard. And I'm just wondering because absolutely Montoya is at risk for the federal government to come in like this customs leader, the leader of the border, um, was locked up in his office, but the federal government came and said, "No, you're corrupt. It's time to go." So that's a huge indication that a lot is going on in Mexico because if the cartel are upset, that upset that their spigots have been turned off, that the human trafficking, that the tunnels have been found, that, I mean, there's more tunnels to be found. Um, look underneath the schools, and then they don't tell you where it comes out in El Paso, do they? They only tell you where the entrance is, but they don't tell you where the exit is. Um, so yeah, they need to show us the exit because we'd like to know if it comes through the schools because then that corroborates everything that we're told that there are tunnels underneath the El Paso ISD schools, that Manny Chavira is protecting that knowledge. And, that's huge news, huge news. So, and is there a link between all of that and Plenitude Crematorium? Were they using the tunnels? Were they using this illegally installed DA for cover? If they're not going to get prosecuted, I mean, you have the owner of the narco rotting body dumping ground disposal site for the cartel. You have him living in El Paso, wining and dining with Ricardo Samaniego, the county judge, meeting with the prosecutor for the north zone of Chihuahua, Carlos Manuel Salas, in El Paso. In El Paso, they don't want to meet in Mexico. They want to meet in El Paso. And this is really important because where is with the prosecution comes investigations. And if there is a sabotage in El Paso of prosecution of investigations, then, it's very, people need to get justice. And if he's obstructing justice, then we have a real problem. And, can you imagine the federal government coming in there and arresting him because of all of his corruption? Because he is corrupt. The evidence confirms he's corrupt. He's sabotaging prosecutions in El Paso. And, is he going to lock himself in the room and refuse to leave? Uh, it really, with everything going on, I don't know if Mexico is a precursor to what's going to be happening in El Paso. All I know is with the shots, um, things have changed because that's a paramilitary activity, and that tells you that I've said it on here that the negotiations for Richard's remains, for the repatriation of Richard's remains, they are brutal. They are brutal. Richard's remains are very, very important to bringing down this cartel grip. And so they're vicious. This negotiation is vicious. They're willing to shoot. And it also, to be really honest about uh, this whole Plenitude crematorium connected to the organ trafficking, that's also, uh, they're trying to protect those other bodies, the other bodies that are there for being forensically looked at. You can have an investigation, and this is what we're told. You can have an investigation where they take the bodies and they just identify them. But what about the forensic evidence? Are their corneas missing? Are their kidneys missing? Are their hearts missing? See, those are information that we need, and that's being covered up. And they're very, how slow can they be in the identification of these hundreds of bodies in today's world? If if our if our family can find the identification of Nadal Baim, the Palestinian arms dealer that uh, was posing as an FBI agent, that the entire uh don't forget that whole thing happened in the Dollar General in October of 2020. And we submitted that video, those pictures, the cashier's testimony video to all the agencies. And they told us he was a nobody. We didn't know who he was because he had a mask on. And they told us he was a nobody. In November, we had the task force meetings where you had over 15 different agencies, including agencies from Mexico, participating in that. And they all sat there knowing full well who Nadal Baim is, was, and is a Palestinian arms dealer, always going back and forth. He's totally tied to the cartel. They absolutely knew who he was. Operating businesses, $1 million contracts in El Paso. They absolutely knew who he was and know who he is. And they're telling us his identity is a nobody. But we found out who he was, who he is. It was a miracle how we found out. And it's gonna be in our book. Total miracle. They couldn't keep it a secret. And when he turned out to be not an FBI agent like he said, but a Palestinian arms dealer connected to James Hart, Leilani Hart, Texas Hart, connected to Richard's command, connected to the cartel, connected to the real estate business, connected to the whole network, the whole criminal trafficking network, even those that targeted Richard in El Paso and over the border in Ciudad Juarez. Y'all, that is such a big deal. Then Cesar Haragi and Carlos Manuel Salas can identify, because once it only took just a minute once we decided to do it. Identifying, you can do it. And especially if you have an office with resources like they do. So the identity of the bodies, we're talking about months now, months and months that have gone by. They need to identify these bodies. We know by the letters that President Trump sent us that he already knows. He already has intelligence. He knows everything about Richard. Because he would never send those two letters within, a day. You can say, okay, 48 hours, 2 letters from President Trump. And the type of letters that he wrote with the information in those letters without knowing everything. He knows everything. It is not a coincidence that Plenitude Crematorium was discovered. It's not a coincidence that the head of the customs border, was arrested. It took 2 weeks because it was a standoff, but he was arrested. It's not a coincidence that Cesar Penici, who was the attorney general at the time that Richard, all this life was taken and trafficked into Mexico, that his $20 million mansion was raided, searched, that he's hiding out in the United States in Texas. It's not a coincidence that Del Carmen, those that, 3, 4 bodies that were rotting, that they were arrested. Why not Rafael Arellano Caron? Because he had hundreds of bodies rotting. But he has a house next to Beto O'Rourke. Is it laws for them and laws for us? Um, yeah. It's not a coincidence that these shots were fired at the border after finding the tunnel, the second tunnel. That tunnel, by the way, was 6 feet wide. was larger than 6 feet wide, 2 meters, 2 meters wide. That's huge. So this is, uh, I think after today, well, we already know through President Trump's own words that he is not negotiating. And so these shots, I think it changes everything. I think it changes everything. I think there's going to be that's paramilitary. You want to call it a war on the border? I call it a war on the border. And don't forget that they've been trafficking all kinds of weapons, all kinds of ammunition. Where? Over the border. This is why there is, a lot of careful strategy going on because remember that even weapons that were supposed to go to Ukraine were resold to the Mexican cartel. They're very heavily armed. And um, President Trump, and I don't know how he thinks, right? But I can tell you this, that he says he likes MacArthur, General MacArthur, General Patton. He really likes General MacArthur. And when he says he likes General MacArthur, and you're a military family and you have a dad like my dad that loved history, and you know that General MacArthur had the least amount of deaths in all his campaigns on both sides, on his own side and the enemy side. He was all about peace. He was all about winning the battle without the loss of life. That was General MacArthur. He was not this burn everything down kind of general. And so when President Trump says he really loves General MacArthur, it tells you that things that he's doing is to preserve life. Yeah. Laura says, I would love martial law because these people are ruthless and will go to any lengths for the truth to not come out. They are absolutely, that's what this shows, right? That they will pick a fight with the United States of America. And we know they're ruthless because they were targeting pregnant women to have illegal C-sections, rip the baby from them, and then take their organs and then dump their body um, in narco body dumping sites. They are ruthless. And we know they're ruthless because I can tell you this through 5 years um, investigating all these families, they have no love for their family. And you see that with Mario Ciraldi. He has no love for his family. He has no love for his wife. You know, when you do this, and it's almost like normalized in our culture now, but for God it's not, you know. For God it's not. To do what he did, um, it, fine, fine, and it's not fine, but Montoya wants to say he just solicited prostitution. Well, for God, that's treason against his family. Ciraldi committed treason against his family just with the solicitation of prostitution. But he went far beyond that. He went far, far beyond that. These people are vicious. They're ruthless. They're monsters. They don't love their family. And I think that's the worst because, the family is the future. And so they don't love the future. They don't care about anybody else. And if they're just going to make a buck by targeting pregnant women or targeting trafficked women and then exploiting them and then taking them back to their captors while committing treason against his own family, while abusing his position as an officer of the court, as an attorney, eh, you know, and then Montoya just wants to do a fake prosecution so that this guy could be called the best attorney in El Paso by El Paso Inc. I mean, really? It's a joke. It's so criminal. They even sell their own children. Just look at the 14-year-old absolutely, the 14-year-old. Thank you for reminding me about that. Um, because that's a good example, even though I know through my investigation, um, of many more of where the families sell their own children. And of course, we have the 14-year-old girl that was living in the barracks on Fort Bliss for 4 months. 4 months. And it was the stepchild of one of the gate guards under Thomas Kane. And Thomas Kane is, uh, so it seems so big, but it's all happening. And the more that we are transparent about it, the more that it's out, the more that we can absolutely hold them accountable. The first, and that's why they control the media so much because the first step is just getting the truth out to the people. And that's why they are professional liars. These media are just absolutely professional liars. And, they just want to prevent people from finding out what's really going on. Because when the people know, then they see the risk to their family, they see the risk to their community, they see the risk to the future, to their country, and they demand justice. Oh, believe me, when I was looking for an attorney for my divorced child custody, the attorney, the way they looked and talked to you, then Judge Victor Salas not letting me represent myself. I think you have the right to represent yourself. And they're all about that application for appointed counsel, right? In the Walmart mass shooting, let's get that application for appointed counsel in so that I don't work for nickels and dimes. I can have an open checkbook from the taxpayers and charge millions and millions of dollars year after year, year after year for Patrick Crucius, for Montoya to say, oh, we're making a plea deal. There's not going to be a trial. We're not going to hear from any witnesses. We don't want to hear from the Mayellas. We don't want to hear from Patrick Crucius's family, the Mayellas. We don't want to hear from Ernest Christopher Grant. We don't really want to hear from, uh, Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia. And they didn't want to hear from the real witnesses, like Richard, like um, Glennon Oakley Jr., where he was in the mall and they were closing down the gates of all the, like the Foot Locker that he was in, because of shots, bullets, stray bullets going off in the mall on on the Walmart day, and that he got out of the gate, him and his friend, because children were abandoned running around like crazy, and he picked up a few children and saved their life, getting them out of the way of any kind of stray bullets that he was afraid that might hit them. That's why he took them out, because he saw that the parents weren't around, and he was deemed a hero. And he saw in the mall a group of all dressed in black with M4s, like mall cops. He thought they were mall cops. They were all dressed in black with M4s. A group of them, not just one or two, a group. Yes. And then he was found not alive in his barracks room in April of 2020. They don't want to hear from him. They don't want to have a trial. They don't want to hear from Patrick Crucius himself, because he's autistic. He has severe mental health conditions. He has a long history. He has a long history from when he was a child, the diagnosis, and banging his head on the sidewalk, and failing kindergarten, not being able to tie his shoes when he was 18 years old, not even knowing how to speak until he was 6. They didn't want to hear. They didn't want to hear how he put it on 4chan, when in fact the manifesto was put on 8chan, but he insisted it was on 4chan. I mean, the irregularities, the evidence. There's evidence upon evidence that he they didn't want to hear that he surrendered twice. Hey, the first time they told me to leave. It wasn't time yet. I had to drive away, and I said, "Oh, it's not. Was it supposed to end this way? I have to go back, and I have to surrender again." And they didn't want to hear about him eating the oranges. They didn't want to hear about his whole timeline, right? Because the timeline was all wrong, and him saying, "Oh, I only killed one or two." Now, one or two is way enough for the death penalty, but Montoya didn't even want to get him for the death penalty for one or two. Because then the question comes up, who were the other shooters for the others that lives were lost, right? Yeah. Um, it is, uh, I think Montoya is at huge risk, and it can't be soon enough for us. It can't be soon enough for us, because we need a legal prosecutor that is not compromised by the likes of Mario Ortiz Ceroldi, not compromised by the likes of uh, who is his funders? Who are his funders? Is it Woody Hunt? So, this is it Soros? I mean, uh, it's someone that's up to no good, because he's up to no good. Exactly. But they are into the cults, yes, and exploitation. Those attorneys know exactly how to try to overpower you. Absolutely. What he was doing was so bad, and he is not the only one. He is not the only one. I mean, you have his past partner, Omar Carmona, who was up to no good with Montoya, that colluded together against their opponent to uh, take their opponent down. That's uh, that's hard evidence. So, I don't know if it was a smart thing for Omar Carmona to represent Zaroldi. Exactly. Follow the money. This is about the money. But it's more than just the money. It really is a cult. And the money is needed to fund this all. So, and to cover up and to cover up and to cover up. And don't ever forget 500,000 children that were trafficked through Fort Bliss. And of course, now we know about it's been confirmed. It's confirmed that they were trafficking organs, that they were harvesting organs. So everything is coming out now. And thank you so much for sharing all this. And I will be back. I will be back tomorrow. Thank you, Laura, for sharing today. And there's a lot of people. Just to let you know, there's a lot of people. Let's just say President Trump's eye is on El Paso. Okay, he is focused on El Paso. And you can take that one to the bank. So thank you so much. God bless you. And I will be back